So I'm gonna quickly do one thing. Let's see. This one. Just so I can easily be able to switch later on. Trying to get the window so I can also watch for anything people say. And thank goodness it looks like it doesn't affect what you guys are seeing. At least that's the way it appears. I'm going to quickly double check one thing. Okay, why is it saying why is Stream Manager? Okay, now it's saying I'm live. That was weird. Okay, we are live in everything now. Reason I wanted to pull it up in Stream Manager is because, yeah. So we will stay live for a little while. I'm not sure how long. We'll kind of go from where how much time gives us every and whatever. Let's see. Okay, I was right that that should have a comma. That's it. Yeah, I don't know that I like that because usually that says you can leave that section out, and you couldn't leave that out and make sense of the world of it, but okay, I hadn't originally planned on this, but I think Amy's actually going to have a friend at Hogwarts because I think I'm gonna make Laura and her mother actually be witches, and Laura's gonna go to Hogwarts too, and just um they used the books as a way to communicate. If they messed up or something, it came from the Harry Potter books. Not they slipped and actually told about the world. So that'll I think, make it funner. Especially as what I'll do is, even though they were best friends, each of them has hidden this other part of the world from each other. So I didn't and arrange to. I want her to go to her house, not just meet with her. To Laura's. That was not supposed to. Don't need that part. Almost a page in 30 minutes. No one's asking questions. Does anyone have any questions? Or any suggestions? Thank you, Shadow Stream supporters! Wow! No, I have reason to stay on longer. I was seeing if anyone had questions and was possibly going to stop, but okay. So, for anyone that joined with Shadow Stream supporters, usually I play Wizards Unite, but the event they had going on finished today at noon my time, so about not quite 2 hours ago. And the next event doesn't start until Saturday. And so when it's in between events, usually I will either play another game or a little while ago on my stream, someone asked to watch me write a story live. And so I've been writing a story that combines, that's kind of more focused on the werewolf side of kind of Harry Potter lore, and is going on right now. So many years later, Hermione's Minister of Magic, Harry's in charge of the Aurors, Neville's a professor at Hogwarts, McGonagall is the headmistress at Hogwarts, and kind of explaining more about how the werewolf gene can still continue without necessarily spreading the only way that we've heard of in the books, which is through bites. We know that it's not, at least in the books, it's shown that it's not necessarily passed down genetically, and it's only spread through bites. And I'm actually going to show a way that it can be passed down genetically, and that things like that. So actually, the way I'm having it is, if you've ever read any of the werewolf stories that have been written, or if you've read some of the ones that have been written in the past while, they have packs, and they're run by an alpha that usually has a beta and maybe a gamma that supports the beta, or that supports the alpha. And in America, there's a lot of packs. There's not very many that have been talked about in England, Great Britain, places like that. But and kind of melding the two. And so what I'm going to say, or what I'm saying, is that it is passed down to children if they're born, if the parents want to have children who are werewolves. We know Remus did not want to have a werewolf for a child. Neither him nor Tonks wanted their child to be a werewolf. And so part of what I'm going to say is that in the short while after they're born, they can approach the alpha, and in approaching the alpha of the pack with their child, then the child, it becomes active. Kind of like we have in the Harry Potter world, you have muggles, you have squibs, and you have half-bloods, mudbloods. And so, but in this case, for the idea of a mudblood to happen, the child has to be brought in front of the alpha within the first month after they're born. Like there'll be some signs that can indicate to people who are werewolves that the child could be a werewolf. But unless it's acted on, then it doesn't happen. And if someone's kicked out of the pack, that's when, like, people in the pack would never bite a human, and at the time, and they don't know that about the wizarding world at all. Uh, and so people in the pack would never bite a human. But at times when people make serious, basically they're outlaws, they may be kicked out of the pack. And that's actually most of the werewolves in the wizarding world are people that were either they ended up being kicked out of the pack and because of becoming an outlaw when they were really young, and so before they showed the wizarding gene, or were bit by a wizard that was kicked out. And one or two times of that happening, obviously you get the small amount that the wizarding world knows about. Well, in this pack, the alpha's oldest child had started displaying some weird things that happened, and one of them was that when they were leaving one area so that their pack wasn't discovered by humans, and humans were investigating because they were looking for a lost child, and as the pack was trying to get out before they were found, all of a sudden the undergrowth started growing really thick before the humans could get there. And this happened in enough areas and everything long enough that they were able to get away. And humans didn't suspect anything, but the pack had seen the undergrowth grow. They were very familiar with the area, and they knew the undergrowth had grown. And they had narrowed it down to every time the alpha's daughter, named Amy, found out about the humans getting close, that's when the undergrowth would start growing exponentially. But in such a way that the humans wouldn't see it. And so they knew somehow Amy was causing it. Amy didn't know how she was causing it. No one in the pack knew how she was causing it. They just knew it happened. And this was a number of years before. And then at the beginning of this story, they had been visited by Professor Longbottom, inviting them inviting Amy to Hogwarts, and had explained that Amy was a witch. Now, they had not told Professor Longbottom about werewolves because they were trying to hide from the world too. So kind of this same idea of that hiding the things that happens in the wizarding world. How a mudblood is, their family's told to just tell everyone they're going off to a boarding school, and all the things like that, keep it really on the down low. Werewolves have learned to do the very same thing. And they keep it very much on the down low, and they didn't know if they could trust Professor Longbottom. This is the first they've heard about it, so they aren't saying anything about the fact that she's a werewolf. And unlike werewolves in the story, because she's in a pack, she can shift whenever she wants. She doesn't lose her humanity, which we see that a lot of times we see in the books that the wizards lose their humanity when they shift into becoming a werewolf. Those in the pack, they don't lose their humanity. So there's really no, they figure they can keep it hidden, and there's no reason to tell. And so that, and so right now I've told this backstory of the undergrowth growing, and that Professor Longbottom had told her to go to, had suggested a book for her to read, and had told her about the Harry Potter books and recommended she read those. And then we find out about a friend of hers that she made after the pack moved to this area. She met at school, and they had become really good friends. Well, this friend and her mother, her family, especially her mother, were really into the Harry Potter books and the Potter community. And so Amy had gone to this friend, the friend's name's Laura, to ask to spend some time before Laura also went off to a boarding school, and to ask to use the books. And Laura had given her the books and the movies and whatever. And what she doesn't know yet is that Laura is also a witch and will also be going to Hogwarts. So I'm going to be writing eventually somewhere along the line, either before she reaches Hogwarts, or, either before they get to the platform 9 3/4, or somewhere between then and the sorting is when they'll find out that the boarding school each of them are going to is Hogwarts. And that's when they'll find out Laura and her mother are both witches, and they really got into the Harry Potter community because it was even easier to, if they slipped up and said something, to have it, to just claim it was because of this, that because of being part of the Potter community, and it would be generally accepted. But they also they were keeping an eye on what was going on with the Muggles and stuff. I haven't decided if any others from Laura's family are, like, if Laura has any younger siblings, or if her dad's a Muggle or a wizard. I haven't decided any of that with Laura. Amy has some younger siblings that are not, they're werewolves, but they're not witches or wizards. On top of that, Laura does not know Amy is a werewolf and the next potential alpha for her pack. She knows nothing of that. And part of what this story is going to be about is that conflict of finding out how the wizarding world thinks of werewolves, and helping them learn to accept werewolves as human beings. We know with Hermione as the head, as the Minister of Magic, she will have been working on people's feelings of werewolves, but I know she hasn't gotten there yet. I'm kind of working off of also Wizards Unite, that game, and some of the things that have come from the game. And in the game, werewolves are still feared to some degree. And so that connection hasn't been made. And so helping continue that shift and helping them realize that there are bad werewolves and good werewolves, just like there are bad wizards and witches and good wizards and witches and whatever, will be part of this storyline. And so it kind of shows how that werewolf gene would continue despite having potions and everything else, but at the same time could also help possibly further research into the genes, but also if someone's bit, once Hermione and once a few people in more power find out about it, while they may not spread it as wide, they will help them move into the pack that Amy's in charge of, which will help the person be able to regain their humanity while they're in werewolf form, so that the only werewolves who would be biting muggles or who would be biting people would be those who are outlaws. They're criminals. And so it can even more help that. And they, rather than having to live a lesser life because of it, they can have a normal life and everything like that. And so that's kind of what all of this is about. That's kind of, so where I'm at right now is Amy's asked for the book and been given the books and movies. She hasn't read anything yet. She has not watched any of the movies. And now I've just given the backstory basically so far, and now we're actually moving into the main parts of the book. So in this one, so from here, now Amy's, where I'm starting now, Amy's going to start reading the books. And obviously, book 1 and book 2, she's not going to, and the movies, she's not going to find out anything about werewolves, about how they're treated or anything else. But it's going to help her learn more about the community, more about the wizarding world. And so kind of exploring more of this, how would you feel if you were a mudblood, if you were born to muggles, a witch or wizard born to muggles, that had no clue about anything in the wizarding world. She has not read the books because she's been so focused on her training to become an alpha, keeping her grades up in school. So basically, knowing when she was grown, she's going to be leading a group of people in charge of their businesses, the pack's businesses, in charge of the pack's finances, the works and having to support this pack. The pack's not very big because they've been killed off through the years due to being thought they were due to everything that happened early on in Europe, England and Europe. With people who would move around a lot and stuff. So the pack's really small, and sometimes people from her pack would go to America also, which didn't help either. So that's kind of where, it's small, but they've got money. And that's why they're able to move around to these different areas. Even when they were, many generations ago, they owned land that they could hide in, different things like that. They had helped some of the kings, etc., so that they had money, and because of the way they lived, they always had money. They kept hidden the pack in general, like only a couple people from the pack would be known about, and most of the pack would go under the radar. And that's why they kind of have to keep hidden, because they have extra strength and different things like that. So had they been known about, they would have scared people. So that's kind of why they've stayed hidden. And how much of that, where I'm going to go on those lines, how much of that story I'm going to tell in this book, I don't know. One of the things I said, I don't set a beginning and an end. I set a kind of background story like I have just given you. And kind of here's the path we're headed. Honestly, I have no clue how it's going to end. And that's the way I write. I know a lot of people have the beginning and the end, and they're just trying to make the two meet. For me, I have a bit of background, so I know what's going on with the people, and then I write. And I write what I'd like to read. And I let the story carry itself. So that's kind of what we're doing. But that's also why I say, hey, if you have suggestions that, hey, it would be cool to see this, or it would be cool to see that. It would be interesting if this would happen, whatever. While I'm writing, if you both now or in the future, if you want, if you just pop in when I'm writing or watch while I'm writing and just give me that information, then we can see if it'll fit in. I used to, when I was in high school, and part of the reason this stream wanted me to write live was because I was saying how when I was in high school, a lot of teachers will give an assignment to to finish out a story. They give you the first part of the story and they ask you to finish it out. And they ask you to write at least 1 page or 3 pages or whatever. My teachers pretty quickly changed from, we don't care what the upper max is, it needs to be at least this much, and that's all they'd give you. my teachers would say, here's the minimum and here's the maximum because I'm not going to read more than that. Because the teachers would know sometimes I'd turn in 10 pages where others were turning in 1 page. And it was just because the story wrote itself, and I kept going until the story had reached completion. And so people on the stream had wanted to see how I write. So that's where we're going with this. There, that's better. And I don't like that. She would often go there. That's better. Hello. If better. That's better. Now I'm trying to remember everything that happened. You know, the minor things, the things that, as you're reading the story, set the background, and you know them, but you don't remember which book they came up in. I'm trying to remember the ones we learn in book one. So obviously, we have the owls come. Now the owls came to Harry only because Petunia and her husband had already been told about the Wizarding World. Otherwise, someone would come greet them, like they did with Hermione. We were never told how much Hermione, the family, was told about the Wizarding World. We just know that they were then taken to get supplies, which Amy's already done at this point. And she didn't run in. Laura had got her supplies earlier. Most of them, well, one was getting some hand-me-downs. I think Laura's going to have an older sibling who also goes to Hogwarts. At least one. She's going to get hand-me-downs from those siblings of school books. They'd gotten all the other supplies earlier in the year. Now they're getting and they had the school books. They were waiting for the owls to find out if there was anything new. And when they got the owl, there was nothing that they hadn't already anticipated. This family, Laura's family, is not going to be poor. They're going to be mid, not rich and not poor, just kind of middle of the range. So we won't see the struggles that Ron's family went through. How are they going to afford books, whatever. But also because of things, because there won't be the turnover of teachers that there was. Many of the books can be reused. And her older siblings are reasonable and don't destroy the books. So she's got really good books. So why go buy the same books again when they're books that are just used for her year, that the older siblings aren't using? So that's where I'm at. So they didn't run into Laura there because of that. They have all her supplies. They're all in the trunk. She's got a short while. I haven't decided if it's a few weeks or a month or what. She's got a short while to learn about the wizarding world. Now, because of the way Amy is, having been raised to be the next alpha of her pack, she's more like Hermione, and she wants to know everything. And part of that is to be able to know how to keep hidden the pack, because without that, she would have a hard time. Obviously, it would be hard to hide the pack information about the pack if you didn't know if they know about packs or not, or what's normal, what's not. Is this how is things she does because she's a werewolf or because she's a witch? What parts come from where, etc. So she's trying to learn about it. So we don't have, obviously, she won't know about Hagrid. I'm not talking about her first visit to Hogsmeade and Diagon Alley and stuff. Or her visit there. I'm not going to even talk about those yet. They had got, I basically, so right now we're still in the past. So I do need to change tone. Okay. Think I've got the tone changed. So we're back in the past. I need to remember we're in the past. Okay. Got to there. Let's see who's live. I found someone who's live, but they are streaming Dead by Daylight. What do you guys think? Do you want to go to Dead by Daylight? Do you guys have a suggestion of where you want to go? Okay, we'll go join Catnaps. Um, I don't have a real raid message. You can choose whatever you want. Just say hi. So we will join her, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow I may be fighting in the fortress. Thanks, and I'll see you guys later.